Pennsylvania has an interesting demographic, and the demographic is that we have a very high rural population. And the high rural population depends heavily on groundwater. So there's not too many people that don't live outside of the boroughs in these communities that don't have their own private well. So there's a heightened sense and concern for groundwater. And our geology lends itself to a lot of different concerns for groundwater itself. I mean, I know you were talking about the Stoll Center that was right across from the power company where we ate lunch. You can't drink the water there. That's been there for 25 years because there's barium in the well. That's a natural occurring pollutant that's in that well, in that location. Well drilling standards. There aren't any in Pennsylvania. You have to permit a gas well in Pennsylvania. You don't have to permit a water well. You and I can go buy a rig tomorrow and start drilling water wells as we speak. Okay, so that's part of the problem is the quality of those wells. But if you go to Texas, again, another difference. What they do down there is they gather a lot of their water in impoundments. They pipe them into communities, high-density communities. Texas is arid. People don't live typically all over the hinterlands. They live in towns and boroughs. There's ranches with houses and housing tracts, but usually it's public water systems. So they gather their water in impoundments, and when the gas companies buy it, they get to a certain level, they shut them off. But the point being is that they don't have that level of concern that exists here. That's a natural thing. It's not something that's wrong. It just kind of heightens the sensitivity of what's going on. And it's actually changed some of the best management practices of the gas companies because of the environment. We have a different climate. They had a problem here. We had guys bringing trucks from Oklahoma. They didn't realize they needed to be plugged in the wintertime here. They didn't realize they needed to be put in shelter. They didn't realize the water would freeze when they did a frac. So a lot of that's evolving. Improvements in the area so that's why the Canadian companies do pretty well down here too, is because they're used to that. They drill in Saskatchewan, and Western Canada, and Alberta, and all that stuff. So there's some definite mechanisms that deal with it and make things more efficient. The other factor that you have to understand with these companies is the fact that they have a business model, and everyone is different. If you look at a lot of these companies, some of them are parents, and they have a lot of subcontractors working for them. Chesapeake isn't one of those for the most part, except for today. You saw Frac Tech. It's probably one of the few parents they use. They use a lot of subcontractors, don't get me wrong, but they own 7 different companies. They have Nomac, and they have Great Plains, and Hodges, and Hog Hauling, and it's all Chesapeake companies. So the completion of the well, soup to nuts, is done by separate subsidiaries of Chesapeake, and it all plays into how they view their drilling and how they develop their business plans. Where Talisman does mostly subcontracting. My understanding that Chesapeake's looking at developing their own frac company now to help, so they can control that too. Okay. So what you're looking at is the configuration of the well on the pads has to do with a competitive advantage. Some of them drill in different directions. The sequence in which they use certain fluids and cocktails is proprietary because they think that gives them a competitive advantage over the next company. Although they do tell you what they use, they don't tell you the sequence because they think they have it figured out. And keep in mind, a lot of these companies are drilling to hold land by production. LHP is a huge term in the industry. That's land that's leased or held by production, which has value, which adds to your stock. The other issue is reserve. So if you drill a well, if you transmit it, or if it's not transmitted to reserve, that adds value to your stock. So your company becomes valuable, you can sell it. So it's not all about doing as much as they can on one site, and they are jumping around holding leases. They have lease obligations that they have to go out. They're looking at leases, saying this one's up. We don't want to pay the premium to release this. We're going to poke a well here. We're going to move the rig. We're going to poke a well there. They don't tell you that. They won't tell you that. What the industry tells you. The one thing that's crazy about it is that it wasn't too long ago, I was with a group of guys from Oklahoma, and I was talking to them about well development and involvement, because it's about $4 million to drill a well. That's not pipeline and everything, but that's just to drill the well. I was talking to them about, if you, how do you guys price gas at the wellhead? And they said, well, it's different constituents. It has to do with, your lease, your acreage that you have in your lease. The royalty or the percentage that you agreed to, the price of gas, and the volume at the well. All those factor in how you get paid as a landowner. So, okay. And so I was going through it with him, and then he said, wait a minute, let me find out if I'm telling you this correctly. It was a guy that I helped with a local company. And he calls a guy out in Oklahoma, and he says, Billy, am I doing this correctly? He had him on a speakerphone. And he goes, yeah, all right, go through it. He goes, And he goes, and what would be the volume at the well? And he goes, I use 8 MMCF, 8 million cubic feet a day. Now, some of these wells in this area are 8 MMCF, endemic and everything. And the guy stops and goes, good God, that's a lot of gas. Now, here's a guy in the industry that heard a number that he's not familiar with, okay? These guys are dealing with wells 1, 2, maybe 3. They have some honey hole wells, okay? So it told me that it's pretty prolific, right? So then I'm with this other company, and I started telling them the same story. And they said, well, wait a minute. They said, look, if it's $4 million to drill a well, and gas is $3.50 an MCF, and that well produces 8 million cubic feet a day, that well will pay for itself 2.5 times in 1 year. So where are you going to invest $4 million to get that kind of money back? My point is that's the kind of revenue stream that's involved with this stuff, even at rock bottom gas prices. The other thing that you see happening is that you see rigs. Now the rig count in Pennsylvania is going down, I think, over the last 2 years, and people think that that's an indication that they're leaving the area. No, what they're doing is they're moving into other types of constituents in gas plays, meaning that Ohio right now has what they call oil chasing gas. They have it's a little deeper, it's a little bit more to develop, but oil comes up with the gas. Pennsylvania has pure natural gas. It's the best resource as far as thermal maturity in the rock that gives you pure natural gas. It's 98% methane, so they can put it right in the pipeline. And that pipeline infrastructure that goes through this area goes right to the megalopolis, the East Coast. But it doesn't pay as well as oil right now. Okay, oil is it 100 a barrel? Right around there? I don't know, it's probably a little less since gas is down a little bit, but 80, 90 or whatever. Well, you need to be in both. If you're balancing your business plan, if you're trying to be in different types of plays to meet the market demand, that's what they're up to. That's what they're doing. They're trying to get. Plus, they have the lease obligation to make sure that they hold those properties because they don't want to release them again. There's no doubt. That's a big cost in the front end. So the big things in our area are quantity, the good wells, quality, 98% methane. They're pipeline ready. They dry it a little bit, and the formation doesn't burp a lot of water back. For some reason, they're not getting a lot of water back up in produced water. The network that we have with the Millennium that runs through this area, the laser now through this area, the Tennessee gas pipeline that goes through this area, and the Transco, and the stagecoach, which comes right down through here. In fact, did we go through Stevensville yet? Yeah, the stagecoach comes right down through here. You'll see it coming over the mountain. Was it back? Did we go by it already? Yeah. You'll see it. That is an interconnect from the Millennium up north in New York State down through here. That infrastructure is what really makes it profitable to drill in the area, because that infrastructure goes directly to New York City, New Jersey, and the East Coast. So they're the biggest users of natural gas on the entire United States. So from an economic standpoint, that's the variables. That's why they're here. It is good. It's as good as they thought it was. So, we're seeing some things. Obviously truck traffic's been a negative for some people. Although it's been a great thing for selling tires and fuel for sure, and repairs. Our school districts have had an interesting dilemma. There's been some increase in enrollment in certain areas, but we have the biggest thing we fight in Pennsylvania is fragmentation. Too many municipalities, too many school districts trying to do the same thing, and it kind of runs into each other. It hurts efficiencies, if you will, in that regard. But what we found is a lot initially, because I sat on a local school board for 9 years. Initially, they were finding that a lot of these kids that were maybe coming with workers in the initial surge had IEPs, individual education plans, because they're transient. They're like migrant children. So what they do is they don't spend a lot of time in any particular school district, so they lose in their education. So that costs school districts. They said, why lose these school districts got $500,000 for their lease on their properties down there. It cost them $600,000 extra for that last year, so they lost money. So there are some issues, some dilemmas along those lines. That's about it. on for hours, but I don't think you've heard enough today, so.